Imagine owning the room at Stanford. 5,000 people, the spotlight, the perfect speech. When a woman from your past walks in with a valedictorian who has your jawline. One look and the words die in your throat. 18 years vanish. Secrets you buried, stolen code, a vanished girlfriend, a child you never met, start clawing to the surface while the internet names your scandal in real time. From a graduation stage to an ICU, a boardroom coup, and a federal courtroom, watch a tech kingpin lose everything he thought mattered and discover the one thing he can't steal, a family that thrived without him. Is this justice or the first honest day of his life? If jaw-drop twists, moral reckonings, and Phoenix-level comebacks are your thing, tap like, drop your hottest take in the comments, share this with a friend who loves high-stakes drama, and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next reveal. The Stanford University graduation hall buzzed with 5,000 voices, all waiting for one man. Ryan Mitchell stood backstage, adjusting his $10,000 suit for the third time, practicing his smile in his phone's camera. At 42, he had everything society said mattered. A tech empire worth $300 million, a beautiful pregnant wife, and enough influence to make governors return his calls. 2 minutes, Mr. Mitchell, the stage manager said. Ryan nodded, already stepping into character. The keynote speaker, the success story, the man who built Mitchell Technologies from nothing into something that mattered. He'd given this speech 50 times at 50 different universities, but Stanford was special. Stanford was where legends were made. Ladies and gentlemen, the dean's voice boomed through the speakers. Please welcome our distinguished alumnus and generous benefactor, founder and CEO of Mitchell Technologies, Ryan Mitchell. The applause hit him like a wave of validation. Ryan strode onto the stage, each step measured, each gesture calculated. The spotlight found him instantly, transforming him into something larger than life. He approached the podium with the confidence of a man who had never lost anything that mattered. "Good morning, graduates," he began, his voice smooth as aged whiskey. 18 years ago, I stood where you stand, uncertain about my future, armed only with ambition and a refusal to accept failure. The crowd leaned in. They always did at this part. Today, you're entering a world that doesn't care about your feelings, your excuses, or your participation trophies. He paused for effect, letting the harsh truth settle. But that's good news. Because in a world that doesn't care, those who dare to take what they want, those who crush their competition instead of collaborating with them, those are the ones who change everything. A murmur rippled through the parents' section. Some nodded approvingly. Others shifted uncomfortably. Ryan didn't care. Comfort was for the weak. Success isn't about being nice. It's about being necessary. It's about making yourself so valuable that the world has no choice but to. The side door opened. 3 figures entered the graduation hall, moving with quiet purpose toward reserved seats in the third row. The woman walked with a grace Ryan recognized before his conscious mind could process why. Her auburn hair caught the light, shorter now than he remembered, but still carrying that same impossible shine. Sarah Collins. After 18 years, Sarah Collins had just walked into his moment of triumph. But she wasn't alone. Beside her walked Marcus Sterling, the billionaire everyone in tech knew but few had met. The man who'd built Sterling Systems into a $4 billion empire while refusing every interview, every magazine cover, every opportunity for fame. And between them, wearing a graduation gown, walked a young woman whose face made Ryan's blood turn to ice. The girl had his sister's eyes, his mother's jawline, his own stubborn chin that appeared in every Mitchell family photo going back 3 generations. She was looking at the stage with polite interest, unaware that her very existence had just shattered the carefully constructed world of the man holding the microphone. Ryan's voice caught. The word necessary died in his throat. He gripped the podium, knuckles white. The silence stretched 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. Someone coughed. A phone buzzed. The entire auditorium held its breath, waiting for the successful millionaire to remember how to speak. His wife, Jessica, 7 months pregnant and sitting in the front row, followed his gaze. Her expression shifted from pride to confusion to something darker as she studied the girl who looked like her husband's ghost. Success, Ryan forced out, his voice cracking like a teenager's. Success is about choices. But his eyes remained locked on Sarah, who now looked directly at him. No smile, no frown, just the steady gaze of someone who had waited 18 years for this moment. The whispers started in the back rows and spread forward like wildfire. Phones appeared, cameras focused. Someone was already live streaming, the caption reading, "Tech CEO has breakdown during graduation speech." Ryan tried to continue, but every word felt like swallowing glass. The choices we make define us. They separate the winners from the from the people like Sarah, he'd almost said, from the people he'd destroyed to build his empire. The dean stood up, ready to intervene. Jessica gripped her phone, her face pale. The audience leaned forward, sensing blood in the water. And in the third row, the girl who looked like a Mitchell turned to whisper something to Sarah, who placed a protective hand on her shoulder. Marcus Sterling pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, and within seconds, Ryan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He shouldn't look. Not during a speech, not with everyone watching. But his hand moved without permission, pulling the device out, tilting it just enough to see the message from an unknown number. 18 years ago, you stole everything from her. Today, she's taking it back. Ryan looked up to find Marcus Sterling's cold gray eyes fixed on him. The billionaire's expression was perfectly calm, like a chess player who had already seen 20 moves ahead and knew the game was over. "I need a moment," Ryan said into the microphone, his voice barely a whisper. Then louder, trying to salvage some dignity, "Please excuse me, I need a moment." He turned and walked off the stage, leaving 5,000 people in stunned silence. The last thing he heard before the backstage door closed was the sound of Olivia Sterling being called to give her valedictorian speech. The program listed her as Olivia Sterling, but Ryan knew the truth with terrifying certainty. That was his daughter, the daughter he never knew existed, the daughter Sarah had hidden from him for 18 years. And now, in front of everyone who mattered, his past had finally caught up with him. Backstage, Ryan collapsed into a chair, his chest heaving like he'd run a marathon. The stage manager hovered nervously, water bottle in hand, but Ryan waved him away. Through the thin wall, he could hear Olivia's voice, clear and confident, beginning her valedictorian speech. "Distinguished guests, family, fellow graduates. Today, we celebrate not just our achievements, but the people who made them possible." Ryan's phone exploded with notifications. His publicist, his CFO, his lawyer, Jessica, texting in all caps. "What is happening? Who is that girl?" He needed to think, needed to remember. 18 years ago, Sarah had been everything. Brilliant, beautiful, working on code that could revolutionize data processing. They'd been partners in every sense until Ryan realized her code was worth more than their relationship. The memory he'd buried so deep came rushing back with a violent clarity. Sarah, standing in his dorm room at 3 in the morning, holding printouts of patent applications. Patent applications, in his name only, for code she'd written. "How could you?" she'd asked, her voice breaking. "It's business," he'd replied. "You're too emotional to see the bigger picture." "I'm pregnant," she'd said then, the words hanging between them like a challenge. He remembered his response perfectly, each word a nail in the coffin of who he used to be. "Then you should have been more careful. I'm not throwing away my future for your mistake." The next day, he'd filed plagiarism charges against her with the university board. He'd manufactured evidence, paid off a teaching assistant, made sure Sarah Collins would never code professionally again. She disappeared before the hearing, leaving him free to build Mitchell Technologies on the foundation of her brilliance. Now, through the wall, Olivia's voice continued. "My mother taught me that integrity isn't about what you do when everyone's watching. It's about what you do when you think no one will ever know." Ryan stood up, pacing. He needed to get ahead of this, needed to control the narrative. He pulled out his phone and called his lawyer. "Tom, I need you to—" "Ryan, I'm watching the live stream. Half of Silicon Valley is watching. That girl, she looks exactly like—" "Shut up and listen. I need you to prepare cease and desist letters, defamation charges, whatever it takes to—" "Ryan," Tom's voice was careful. "Is she your daughter?" The question hung in the air. Through the wall, applause thundered for something Olivia had said. "Just do your job," Ryan snarled and hung up. Jessica appeared in the doorway, her pregnant belly preceding her like an accusation. We're leaving, now. Jess, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why there's a girl out there who looks like she was cloned from your family photos? Can you explain why Marcus Sterling, who hasn't attended a public event in 5 years, is here with your ex-girlfriend? Ryan reached for her, but she stepped back. Don't. Just don't. I need to think. She left, and Ryan was alone with the sound of his daughter's voice through the wall. Success isn't measured in dollars or market share. It's measured in the lives we lift up, the people we choose to become when faced with difficult choices. His phone rang, the chairman of his board. Ryan, we need an emergency meeting. The footage from your speech is already trending. Hashtag Mitchell meltdown. The stock price is dropping. It's a minor hiccup. A minor hiccup? Ryan, there are photos circulating, comparison shots. That girl is clearly your daughter, and the internet is already piecing together the timeline. They're calling you the deadbeat billionaire. Through the wall, thunderous applause. Olivia had finished her speech. Ryan made a decision. He would go back out there, face it head on, claim his daughter publicly before Sarah could poison her against him. He straightened his tie, put on his CEO face, and walked back toward the stage entrance. But Sarah was waiting for him in the corridor. 18 years had been kind to her in a way success had been kind to him. She looked polished now, confident, wearing a designer dress he recognized as costing more than most people's cars. Marcus Sterling's influence, no doubt. Hello, Ryan. Her voice was exactly as he remembered. Calm, measured, with an undertone of steel. Sarah, you look well. I am well. Very well, actually. When they stood there, two people who had once shared everything, now strangers with a secret standing between them. She's mine, Ryan said. It wasn't a question. Biologically? Yes. In any way that matters? No. You had no right to keep her from me. Sarah laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Rights? You want to talk about rights? You stole my work, destroyed my reputation, and told me I was on my own. I gave you exactly what you asked for. A life without obligations. I could have, what? Paid child support? Visited on weekends? Been the kind of father who shows up for graduations? She gestured toward the auditorium. Oh, wait, you did show up for this one. How's that working out? Marcus Sterling appeared beside Sarah, his presence immediately shifting the power dynamic. Up close, Ryan could see why the man was legendary in tech circles. His eyes missed nothing, calculated everything. Mr. Mitchell, Marcus said, his voice perfectly neutral. I believe you have a speech to finish. This doesn't concern you, Sterling. Marcus smiled, a predator recognizing prey. Everything concerning my family concerns me. Olivia is my daughter in every way that counts. Has been since she was 2 years old. She's a Mitchell. Look at her face. I have, Marcus said, every day for 16 years, when she was scared of the dark, when she broke her arm playing soccer, when she cried because some boy broke her heart, when she got into Stanford on her own merits, not because her father bought a building. Where were you for any of that? Ryan's phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. At the hospital, started bleeding, don't come. The world tilted. His wife was having complications. His daughter didn't know he existed. And the entire tech community was watching him implode in real time. I need to go, he said. Yes, Sarah agreed. You're very good at leaving when things get complicated. Ryan pushed past them, but Sarah's voice followed him. She doesn't know, you know. Olivia, she thinks her biological father died before she was born. It was kinder than the truth. He stopped, turned back. You told her I was dead? No, I told her nothing. She assumed, and I let her. Because how do you explain to a child that her father valued money more than her existence? Ryan wanted to respond, to fight back, to reclaim some control. But his phone was ringing again. The hospital. And for once in his life, he had no words that could fix what he had broken. The hospital waiting room fluorescent lights hummed with the same frequency as Ryan's anxiety. Jessica had been in surgery for 2 hours. Placental abruption, the doctor had said, using medical terms that translated to, your wife might lose the baby, and it's a miracle she made it here in time. Ryan sat alone, his phone face down on the plastic chair beside him. He couldn't bear to look at it, to see his name trending worldwide, to read the dissection of his life by strangers who knew nothing except what they could glean from a 2-minute video clip. "Mr. Mitchell?" He looked up. A young nurse stood there, tablet in hand. "Your wife is stable. The baby, we managed to stop the bleeding, but she'll need to remain on strict bed rest for the remainder of the pregnancy. She's asking for you." Jessica looked small in the hospital bed, her face pale against the white pillows. The monitors beeped steadily, tracking 2 heartbeats, hers and the baby's. "The baby's okay," she said before he could ask. "Our daughter is okay." Daughter, the word hit him like a physical blow. "Jess, I know who she is," Jessica interrupted. "Olivia, I've known for 3 hours now. The internet is very thorough when it smells blood." She pulled out her phone, showed him the screen. A Reddit thread with 30,000 comments. Breaking, tech CEO Ryan Mitchell abandoned pregnant girlfriend, stole her code, built empire on lies. "Is it true?" "True?" Jessica asked. "Did you steal Sarah Collins' work?" Ryan wanted to lie. He was good at lying, but sitting in that sterile room, watching his wife fight to keep their child alive, he found he couldn't. "Yes." Jessica closed her eyes. "And you got her expelled from MIT? Destroyed her career?" "Yes." "And she was pregnant with Olivia when you did it?" "Yes." Jessica's hand moved to her stomach, protective. "Get out." "Jess, please." "Get out, Ryan. I need to think about whether I want my daughter to have a father who could do something like that." He left because there was nothing else to do. In the hallway, his phone finally demanded attention. 47 missed calls. His CFO had texted, "Board meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m., mandatory." The parking garage echoed with his footsteps. Ryan had never noticed how empty spaces could sound, how they threw your own movement back at you like an accusation. He drove home on autopilot, his mind spinning through damage control scenarios. But when he arrived at his house, his $12 million testament to success, news vans were already gathered outside. Reporters surged forward as his gate opened. "Mr. Mitchell, is Olivia Sterling your biological daughter? Did you steal Sarah Collins' code? How do you respond to allegations of fraud?" He said nothing, driving through them like obstacles in a video game. Once inside, he poured himself a scotch and finally, masochistically, opened Twitter. His destruction was trending worldwide. Hashtag deadbeat billionaire. Hashtag stolen code. Hashtag Olivia deserves better. Someone had found Sarah's old MIT records, posted her original code alongside Mitchell Technology's first patent. The similarities were undeniable. His phone rang. Tom, his lawyer. "Ryan, we have a problem." "Just one?" "The FBI has opened an investigation. Intellectual property theft, fraud, possibly racketeering if they can prove you paid off that teaching assistant. Someone leaked documents, Ryan. Internal documents from 18 years ago." Ryan's blood chilled. "What documents?" "Emails. Emails where you explicitly discuss framing Sarah for plagiarism, where you brag about stealing her code, where you call her, and I quote, too emotional and weak to deserve success. Those were encrypted, destroyed." "Well, someone found them, and Ryan, they're authenticated. The FBI's cybercrimes unit confirmed they're real." Ryan hung up. He walked to his home office, the shrine to his success. Awards lined the walls, magazine covers featuring his face. The Innovator of the Year trophy from just 6 months ago. He picked up the trophy, felt its weight. Then he threw it against the wall, watching it shatter into meaningless pieces. His computer chimed. A video call request from Marcus Sterling. Against his better judgment, Ryan answered. Marcus appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a home office. Behind him, Ryan could see Sarah and Olivia talking quietly, unaware of the call. "Thought you should see this," Marcus said, turning his camera to show them more clearly. Olivia was crying, Sarah holding her. "I don't understand," Olivia was saying. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because knowing wouldn't have changed anything," Sarah replied. "He made his choice 18 years ago. But he's my father, my biological father, and he was right there giving a speech about success, and he doesn't even know I exist?" "He knows now," Sarah said quietly. Olivia pulled back. "What do you mean?" "He saw you, that's why he couldn't finish his speech." Ryan watched his daughter process this information. Her face cycled through emotions, confusion, hurt, anger. So he saw me and ran away again? It's more complicated than that. No, Olivia said, her voice gaining strength. It's not. He's a coward who built his fortune on your work and couldn't even face me for 5 minutes. Thank God I have a real father. She stood up and walked away. Sarah started to follow, but Marcus called her over. Ryan's watching, he said simply. Sarah looked directly at the camera, at Ryan. This is what you missed, she said. Every day for 18 years, this is what you chose to miss. I hope your success was worth it. Marcus ended the call. Ryan sat in his dark office, surrounded by the artifacts of his success, finally understanding the price he'd paid for them. Somewhere across the city, his biological daughter was crying in the arms of the family he could have had, while his wife lay in a hospital bed, deciding whether he deserved a second chance he'd never given anyone else. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. He opened it to find a photo, Sarah's original code notebook from MIT dated 18 years ago. The same code that had built his empire. At the bottom of the page, in Sarah's handwriting, for our future children, may they build something better. The message below the photo was simple. The FBI will be very interested in this. MS. Ryan Mitchell, millionaire tech CEO, winner of countless awards, destroyer of anyone who stood in his way, put his head in his hands and waited for the dawn that would bring his complete destruction. The boardroom at Mitchell Technologies had never felt smaller. 9 board members sat around the polished table, their faces grave. Ryan entered to silence. No greetings, no small talk, just the weight of judgment. Sit, commanded Evelyn Parker, the lead board member. She'd been his first major investor, the one who'd believed in him when Mitchell Technologies was just stolen code and ambition. Ryan sat. The FBI served us with subpoenas this morning, Evelyn began. They're investigating everything. The company's founding, the original patents, your relationship with Sarah Collins. It's a witch hunt. Stop, Evelyn's voice cut through his denial. We've seen the evidence. We've all seen it. The code comparison, the emails, the payments to that teaching assistant. Richard Morse, wasn't it? He's agreed to testify in exchange for immunity. Ryan's stomach dropped. Richard had been crucial to framing Sarah, a greedy TA who'd do anything for $10,000. Now, 18 years later, that $10,000 would cost Ryan everything. The board has voted, Evelyn continued. Effective immediately, you're suspended as CEO pending the investigation's outcome. You can't do this. I built this company with stolen code, interrupted James Wilson, the CFO. Our legal team estimates our liability at $300 million minimum. Every patent, every innovation built on Sarah Collins' original work is now suspect. The stock has dropped 40% since yesterday, added another board member. We're hemorrhaging value. Major clients are threatening to pull contracts. Evelyn stood. Security will escort you out. Your accounts are frozen pending investigation. Don't make this harder than necessary. 2 security guards entered. Ryan recognized them. He'd hired them, paid their salaries for 5 years. Now they wouldn't meet his eyes as they waited for him to stand. The walk through his own company felt like a funeral procession. Employees pretended to work, but everyone watched. Someone was recording on their phone. By the time he reached the lobby, the video would be online. Watch, disgraced CEO escorted from own company. Outside, more reporters, more questions, more cameras. Ryan said nothing, got in his car, and drove. But where could he go? The hospital, where his wife had banned him? Home, where news vans camped? He ended up at a Starbucks, sitting in the corner with sunglasses on, like a cliché of a fallen celebrity. His phone rang. Tom, the lawyer. The FBI wants you to come in voluntarily for questioning. If you don't, they'll arrest you publicly. Your choice. When? This afternoon, 2 o'clock. Ryan hung up. He had 3 hours of freedom left. He called Jessica. Please don't hang up. Silence then. What do you want, Ryan? To apologize, to explain, to save yourself, like always. That's not, I'm divorcing you. Her voice was steady, decisive. My lawyer will contact yours. I want full custody of our daughter when she's born. You can't, I can, and I will. No child of mine will grow up thinking it's acceptable to destroy people for profit. Jess, please. I love you. No, Ryan, you love the idea of me. The trophy wife who made you look successful. But love? Real love? You wouldn't recognize it if it built you a $1 billion company from stolen code. She hung up. Ryan sat in Starbucks watching normal people live normal lives. A mother helped her daughter with homework. A couple shared a muffin. Simple moments he had never valued, too busy building an empire in someone else's foundation. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Marcus Sterling announces major acquisition. He clicked the link, his blood freezing as he read. Sterling Systems had just acquired Mitchell Technology's biggest competitor, Quantum Leap Solutions, for $2 billion. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the quote from Marcus. We're excited to bring Quantum Leap into the Sterling family, especially their new head of development, Sarah Collins Sterling, whose revolutionary data processing algorithms will transform our industry. Sarah Collins Sterling. They were married. She'd married Marcus Sterling. The article continued. Collins Sterling's original MIT research, recently validated by federal investigators, proves she invented the core technology that Mitchell Technologies falsely claimed for nearly 2 decades. Ryan's phone rang again. Evelyn Parker. I thought you should hear it from me first. The board voted again. We're suing you personally for fraud. We need to distance the company from your crimes if we have any hope of surviving. Evelyn, I made you rich. No, Ryan. Sarah Collins made us rich. You just took the credit. 2 o'clock came too quickly. The FBI field office was a gray building that seemed designed to crush hope. Inside, 2 agents waited. Agent Diana Foster and Agent Michael Brooks. They were young, sharp, and had clearly done their homework. Mr. Mitchell, you have the right to have an attorney present, Agent Foster began. He's on his way, Ryan said, though Tom had stopped answering his calls. While we wait, let me show you what we have. Agent Chen opened a laptop. Emails from your account dated 18 years ago, financial records showing payments to Richard Morse, patent applications with code identical to Sarah Collins' MIT thesis work. Document after document appeared on screen. Ryan's carefully buried past, excavated and displayed like evidence at a murder trial, which in a way it was, the murder of Sarah's career, performed with keystrokes and lies. The really interesting part, Agent Foster said, is this email from last year. Ryan leaned forward. It was from his own account to his CTO. Make sure all records from the MIT period stay buried. The Collins situation cannot surface. You knew, Agent Chen said. This whole time you knew what you'd done was wrong. That's consciousness of guilt. That turns civil theft into criminal fraud. Tom finally arrived, sweating and frantic. He took one look at the evidence and pulled Ryan aside. Take a deal, he whispered. Plead guilty to lesser charges. You might avoid prison. I'm not admitting anything. Ryan, they have everything. Fighting this means a trial, and trials mean everything becomes public. Everything. Do you want Olivia reading court transcripts about how her biological father destroyed her mother? Olivia, Ryan had almost forgotten that this wasn't just about him anymore. There was a 17-year-old girl out there, brilliant and accomplished, who would have to live with his choices for the rest of her life. What kind of deal? The agents offered 5 years minimum prison, full restitution to Sarah, and a lifetime ban from serving as an officer in any technology company. Think about it, Agent Foster said. You have 24 hours. Ryan left the FBI office to find the world had moved on without him, and Mitchell Technologies' stock had dropped another 20%. 3 more board members had resigned. His country club had revoked his membership. But the worst was yet to come. That evening, as Ryan sat alone in his empty house, Olivia Sterling gave an interview to a major news network. He watched his daughter, poised, articulate, heartbreaking, tell the world her story. I found out yesterday that my biological father is alive, she said, looking directly at the camera. For 17 years, I believed he died before I was born. The truth is worse. He chose to be dead to me. The interviewer asked, do you want a relationship with Ryan Mitchell? Olivia considered the question. I want him to understand what he missed. Every birthday, every school play, every nightmare, every triumph. He missed it all for money he is now going to lose anyway. I want him to know that Marcus Sterling, my real father, was worth 1,000 Ryan Mitchells. And I want him to know that my mother, Sarah Collins Sterling, survived him. Floyd, despite him, built a life so beautiful that his absence was a gift, not a loss. Any message for him, and if he's watching? Olivia looked at the camera again, and Ryan saw his own eyes staring back at him, filled with the pain he'd caused. Yes, thank you for leaving. Thank you for showing Mom who you really were before I was born. Because of your cruelty, I got to grow up with parents who actually know how to love. The interview ended. Ryan sat in darkness, finally understanding that he hadn't just lost his company, his wife, his fortune. He'd lost the chance to matter to the one person who should have mattered most to him. 3 weeks after the graduation disaster, Ryan Mitchell sat in a motel room that charged by the hour, watching his former life disappear pixel by pixel on a laptop screen. His assets were frozen, his credit cards canceled, his houses seized by federal agents. The FBI had found more than they'd expected: years of tax evasion, bribery, corporate espionage. Every shortcut he'd taken to build his empire had left a trail, and now that trail led to a federal indictment with 47 charges. The cheap motel sheets smelled like industrial bleach and broken dreams. Ryan refreshed his browser obsessively, tracking the systematic destruction of everything he'd built. Mitchell Technologies had filed for bankruptcy. The board had discovered that without Sarah's stolen code as its foundation, most of their products were legally indefensible. Competitors were circling like vultures, picking off patents, poaching employees, carving up the corpse of his company. His phone, a burner, since his iPhone had been seized as evidence, buzzed with a text from Tom. Prosecutor offering new deal, 3 years if you testify against your co-conspirators. Without deal, you're looking at 20 minimum. Co-conspirators. They meant his former CFO who'd helped hide the financial fraud. His former CTO who'd known about the stolen code. Friends, or what passed for friends in his world. People whose loyalty extended exactly as far as their stock options. Ryan texted back, no deal. He still had some pride left, though he couldn't afford it. The $5,000 he'd hidden in cash would last maybe another month. After that, he couldn't think about after that. A knock at the door made him jump. Through the peephole, he saw a woman in an expensive suit, a process server. Ryan Mitchell, you're being served. She handed him a thick envelope and left. Inside, divorce papers from Jessica, a custody agreement giving her full rights to their unborn daughter, and a restraining order preventing him from coming within 500 feet of her. Jessica had included an ultrasound photo, their daughter healthy and growing. At the bottom, she'd written, her name will be Grace. She'll never know your name. Ryan crumpled the ultrasound, then immediately smoothed it out, hating himself for both actions. This child would be born in 2 months. She would enter the world fatherless by design, protected from him by legal documents and court orders. His laptop chimed, an email from an address he didn't recognize. The subject line, you should see this. He opened it to find a link to a live stream. Sarah Collins Sterling was giving a talk at Stanford's computer science department. The title were Resilience in Tech, How I Built a Career After Having Everything Stolen. Ryan clicked the link, masochistic curiosity winning over self-preservation. Sarah stood at the same podium where he'd given his failed graduation speech. She looked confident, successful, everything she deserved to be. The audience, students, faculty, tech industry leaders, hung on her every word. 18 years ago, I wrote code that I believed would change the world, she began. I was young, naive, and trusted the wrong person. That person stole my work, destroyed my academic career, and left me pregnant and alone. The audience was silent, captivated. For years, I believed he had won. He built a company worth hundreds of millions while I waited tables and raised my daughter in a 1-bedroom apartment. But here's what I learned. Theft might give you a head start, but it doesn't teach you how to run the race. She clicked to a slide showing Mitchell Technologies' bankruptcy, filing alongside Sterling Systems' soaring stock price. The man who stole from me never learned to create, only to take. So when his stolen foundation crumbled, he had nothing left. Meanwhile, I kept coding, kept creating, kept building. And now the technology I'm developing in its Sterling systems makes his stolen code look like a child's homework assignment. Applause rippled through the audience. Sarah waited for it to quiet. But this isn't a story about revenge. It's about resilience. That man gave me an unexpected gift. He showed me exactly who not to become. Every choice I've made since has been guided by that negative example. When my daughter asks about integrity, I tell her about consequences. When young engineers ask about shortcuts, I show them where shortcuts lead. The camera panned across the audience. Ryan spotted Olivia in the front row, watching her mother with pure admiration. Some of you know that man's name, Sarah continued. It's been in the news lately, but I won't speak it here. He's had enough attention. Instead, let's talk about building something real, something that can't be stolen because it comes from within. Ryan closed the laptop. He couldn't watch anymore. Outside his motel window, life continued. Cars passing, people living normal lives, the world spinning without him. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. Hello? Mr. Mitchell, this is producer Janet Walsh from 60 Minutes. We're doing a segment on tech industry fraud and would love to interview you. A chance to tell your side of the story. Ryan almost laughed. His side of the story. What could he say? That he'd been young and hungry? That Sarah's code had been too good to pass up? That he'd convinced himself she didn't deserve success because she'd been emotional when he'd betrayed her? No comment, he said and hung up. But the calls kept coming. Reporters, documentary makers, true crime podcasters. Everyone wanted to hear from the villain of the story. The cautionary tale. The man who had everything and lost it all because he'd built it on someone else's foundation. By evening, Ryan was drunk on cheap whiskey, scrolling through social media on his burner phone. #Justice for Sarah was trending. Someone had started a scholarship fund in Sarah's name for female computer science students who'd faced discrimination. It had raised $2 million in 3 days. Marcus Sterling had pledged to match every donation. Ryan searched for videos of Olivia. He found dozens, her at science fairs, coding competitions, debate tournaments. In every video, Marcus Sterling was there, cheering from the audience. In every photo, Sarah stood beside her, proud and supportive. They'd given Olivia everything Ryan never could have. Not money or connections, but presence. They'd been there, day after day, building a family while he'd been building a lie. His phone rang again. This time it was his mother. Ryan, I saw the news. Is it true? Is that girl? Is Olivia my granddaughter? He couldn't speak. His mother had always wanted grandchildren, had been asking for years when he and Jessica would start a family. Now she was learning she'd had a granddaughter for 17 years, kept from her by her son's choices. Ryan, answer me. Is it true? Yes, he whispered. Silence, then. How could you? How could you deny me my granddaughter, deny her a grandmother? Your father would be ashamed. Mom, don't. I've transferred what's left of your trust fund to a college account for Olivia. It's not much, but it's more than you deserve. Don't contact me again until you're ready to take responsibility for what you've done. She hung up. Ryan threw the phone against the wall, watching it shatter. Like everything else he'd touched, it broke into pieces that couldn't be put back together. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Rain began to fall, hammering against the thin motel windows. Ryan thought about Sarah, 18 years ago, standing in the rain with nowhere to go, carrying his child. The parallel was perfect, poetic even, except Sarah had been innocent, and he was guilty of everything they accused him of and more. The courtroom was packed. Media outlets had been lobbying for cameras inside, but Judge Harrison had refused, maintaining what little dignity remained in the proceedings. Ryan sat beside Tom, wearing a suit borrowed from his lawyer because all of his own had been seized. Across the aisle sat the prosecution team, led by District Attorney Michelle Rodriguez, a woman known for taking down corporate criminals. She'd already sent 2 Fortune 500 CEOs to prison. Ryan would be her third, but it was the gallery that made Ryan's chest tighten. Sarah sat in the third row, Marcus beside her, their presence a quiet reminder of everything at stake. Olivia wasn't there. Sarah had shielded her from the spectacle. But Jessica was, 9 months pregnant, sitting with her divorce lawyer, documenting every moment for their custody battle. The people versus Ryan Mitchell, Case number 2024 CF 1947, the bailiff announced. The defendant is charged with wire fraud, intellectual property theft, conspiracy, tax evasion. The list went on for 2 minutes. 47 charges that carried a maximum sentence of 200 years. Not that Ryan would live that long, but the number itself was a message. You're never getting out. District Attorney Rodriguez stood for opening statements. She was brilliant, methodical, devastating. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is not a complex case. The defendant stole code from Sarah Collins 18 years ago. He built a $300 million company on that stolen foundation. When she confronted him, pregnant with his child, he destroyed her academic career to silence her. Then he spent 18 years profiting from her brilliance while she struggled to survive. She clicked a remote, and Sarah's original code appeared on the screen beside Mitchell Technologies' first patent. We will show you line-by-line comparison. We will present emails where the defendant explicitly discusses stealing this code. We will bring witnesses who heard him brag about destroying Ms. Collins. This is not a tragedy of ambition. It's a crime of greed. Tom's opening statement was weaker, focusing on the passage of time, the statute of limitations for some charges, technicalities that made the jury's eyes glaze over. Even he didn't seem to believe Ryan's innocence. The first witness was Richard Morse, the teaching assistant Ryan had paid to falsify plagiarism charges against Sarah. 18 years had not been kind to Richard. He was balding, sweating, fidgeting as he took the oath. Mr. Morse, Rodriguez began, tell us about your arrangement with the defendant. Richard's voice cracked. He paid me $10,000 to say I'd seen Sarah Collins copying code from another student. He gave me the code to plant in her files. Said she was trying to steal from him and he needed to protect himself. Did you know the code was actually hers? Not at first, but later when Mitchell Technologies went public, I recognized it. It was everywhere in their products. That's when I knew what I'd done. Why come forward now? Richard looked at Ryan, then away. Because I have a daughter now. She's studying computer science. I couldn't look at her knowing I'd helped destroy another young woman's career. The jury took notes, their faces hard. Next came former employees of Mitchell Technologies. One by one they testified about Ryan's behavior, his admissions, his contempt for Sarah. He called her a necessary casualty, one former CTO testified. Said great companies were built on tough choices. He kept a photo from MIT in his office, another said. Him and Sarah, but her face was scratched out. When I asked about it, he said it reminded him that sentiment was weakness. Each testimony was another nail. Rodriguez was building a coffin of evidence, and Ryan could feel it closing around him. On day 3, Sarah took the stand. She wore a simple black dress, no jewelry except a wedding ring. When she raised her hand for the oath, Ryan noticed her fingers weren't trembling. She was steady, composed, ready. Ms. Collins Sterling, Rodriguez began, tell us about your relationship with the defendant. Sarah's voice was clear, carrying across the silent courtroom. We met at MIT. We were both computer science students, young, ambitious, in love. Or I thought we were in love. For Ryan, I think I was just convenient. Can you describe the code you developed? Sarah's face lit up, the passion still evident after all these years. It was a revolutionary approach to data processing, using parallel algorithms that could reduce processing time by 80%. I worked on it for 2 years. Ryan knew every line. He helped me test it, debug it. I trusted him completely. When did you discover he'd stolen it? 3 days before graduation. I found patent applications in his name only. When I confronted him, he said it was for both of us, that he was protecting our future. Then I told him I was pregnant. What was his response? Sarah looked directly at Ryan. He said I should have been more careful, that he wasn't throwing away his future for my mistake. Our child was a mistake to him. Several jury members shifted uncomfortably. A woman in the front row was crying. What happened next? He filed false plagiarism charges against me. The university launched an investigation. I was 3 months pregnant, facing expulsion, academic destruction. So I left. I ran. I had no money, No family, nowhere to go, but I had to protect my baby. Tell us about those early years. Sarah's composure cracked slightly. I worked 3 jobs while pregnant, waited tables, cleaned offices, did whatever I could. After Olivia was born, it got harder. Childcare was expensive. Some weeks I didn't eat so she could, but we survived. Did the defendant ever try to contact you? Offer support? Never, not once in 18 years. Rodriguez showed financial records. While you were struggling, the defendant was building Mitchell Technologies on your code. First year revenue, 10 million. Second year, 30 million. By year 5, 100 million. Did you receive any of this? Nothing. When did you meet your husband, Marcus Sterling? Sarah smiled, the first genuine warmth in her testimony. When Olivia was 2, I was working at a small tech firm. Marcus was an investor. He saw potential in everyone else overlooked. He mentored me, encouraged me to keep coding. Eventually, we fell in love. Did he know about the defendant? Yes, I told him everything. He wanted to help me fight, but I asked him not to. I didn't want Olivia growing up in a legal battle. I wanted her to have a normal childhood. Tom stood for cross-examination. Ms. Collins Sterling, isn't it true you're now worth over $1 billion through your marriage? My husband's wealth is his. I've earned my position at Sterling Systems through my work. But you benefit from his fortune. I benefit from his love and support. The code I'm developing now, that's mine. Published, patented, recognized by the industry. I didn't need to steal to succeed. Tom tried more angles, but each one made Ryan look worse. Sarah hadn't sued for the money. She'd stayed silent to protect Olivia. She'd built her own success despite Ryan's theft. When Sarah stepped in, she passed Ryan's table. For a moment, their eyes met. He saw no hatred there, just pity. That was worse than anger. She pitied him. The trial continued for 2 more weeks. Financial experts testified about the value of Sarah's code, minimum 100 million in damages. Character witnesses described Ryan's pattern of destroying competitors. The FBI presented evidence of tax evasion, bribery, conspiracy. Ryan didn't testify. Tom advised against it, said the prosecution would destroy him. But the real reason was simpler. Ryan had no defense. Everything they said was true. During a recess on the trial's final day, Ryan made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He fired Tom and stood to address the court. Your Honor, I'd like to change my plea. Judge Harrison peered over her glasses. Mr. Mitchell, you're currently without counsel. I strongly advise, I want to plead guilty to all charges. The courtroom erupted. Rodriguez looked shocked. Sarah's eyes widened. Jessica's hand went to her stomach, where baby Grace kicked, as if sensing the moment's gravity. Mr. Mitchell, the judge said after gaveling for order, you understand what you're saying? You're admitting to all 47 charges? Yes, Your Honor, but I'd like to make a statement if the court allows. Judge Harrison considered. Given the public nature of this case, I'll allow it, but understand this won't reduce your sentence. Ryan stood, turned to face the gallery. For the first time in weeks, months, maybe years, he spoke without calculation. 18 years ago, I made a choice that destroyed multiple lives. I stole Sarah Collins's code. I destroyed her academic career. I abandoned her when she was pregnant with our child. I built an empire on her brilliance and told myself I deserved it because I was stronger, more ruthless. He looked at Sarah. She was watching him, her expression unreadable. I told myself that love was weakness, that family was a distraction, that success was the only measure of a man. I was wrong about everything. Sarah didn't succeed despite having a heart. She succeeded because of it. She built something real while I built a house of cards. His voice cracked. I have a daughter I've never met. Olivia, she's brilliant, accomplished, loved. Everything she is comes from her mother's strength and Marcus Sterling's presence. I contributed nothing except DNA and absence. He turned to Jessica. I have another daughter about to be born, Grace. Her mother is protecting her from me, and she's right to do it. I'm toxic. I destroy everything I touch because I never learned the difference between taking and building. Ryan faced the judge. I'm guilty of everything they have charged me with and more. I stole code, money, futures. I stole 18 years from my mother, who never knew she had a granddaughter. I stole peace of mind from Sarah, who had to look over her shoulder wondering when I'd appear. I stole a father from Olivia, though Marcus Sterling filled that void better than I ever could have. The prosecution is asking for 20 years. It's not enough. No amount of time will undo what I've done. But I want the record to be clear. I am guilty. Sarah Collins is the genius. The code was hers. The success should have been hers. Everything I have should go to her and Olivia. He sat down. The courtroom was silent except for the court reporter's keys clicking. Judge Harrison cleared her throat. The court accepts the defendant's guilty plea. Sentencing will be held in 2 weeks. Court is adjourned. As the bailiff approached with handcuffs, Ryan looked back one more time. Sarah was standing, Marcus's arm around her. She didn't look triumphant or vindicated. She looked sad. After everything, she could still feel sorry for him. That was the difference between them. She could still feel. 2 weeks later, Ryan stood for sentencing in an orange jumpsuit. The designer suit's a memory. Judge Harrison had reviewed everything. The evidence, the guilty plea, the victim impact statements. Mr. Mitchell, she began, in 20 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such a clear-cut case of prolonged, deliberate harm. You didn't just steal code, you stole potential. You stole peace. You stole parenthood from yourself through your own cruelty. She looked at her notes. Sarah Collins Sterling has requested no additional punitive damages beyond restitution. She says she has everything she needs. That statement alone shows the character you tried to destroy. Olivia Sterling submitted a letter. She doesn't want to meet you. She says her father is Marcus Sterling, and biology doesn't change that. She's right. Your ex-wife Jessica has given birth to a healthy daughter. She's requested and received full custody with no visitation rights for you. Each word was a hammer blow, but Ryan stood straight. He deserved this. Ryan Mitchell, I sentence you to 15 years in federal prison with possibility of parole after 10. You will pay full restitution to Sarah Collins Sterling in the amount of $150 million. You are permanently barred from serving as an officer in any technology company. Upon release, you will have 5 years probation. The gavel fell with finality. As they led him away, Ryan caught a glimpse of the gallery. Sarah and Marcus were already leaving, their backs to him, walking toward a future he'd never be part of. Jessica was gone, probably home with Grace, starting a life that didn't include him. But his mother was there. She looked older, sadder, but she was there. She didn't smile or wave, just nodded once. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. He existed. He was her son. He had done terrible things, but he existed. It was more than he deserved. 3 years into his sentence, Ryan had established a routine at the Federal Correctional Institution. Wake at 5, kitchen duty at 6, library from noon to 4, coding class from 6 to 8, teaching other inmates basic programming, the first honest work he'd done in 20 years. He'd lost 40 pounds, his designer physique replaced by prison muscle and hard edges. The soft executive was gone. What remained was harder to define. Mail call was usually empty for him. Tom had disappeared after the trial. His former friends had written him off. But today, there was a letter. The handwriting was unfamiliar. He opened it carefully, prison having taught him caution in all things. Ryan, you don't know me, but I know you. I'm David Carter, one of your former engineers. You fired me 5 years ago for questioning why our core code looks so familiar. I'm writing because I thought you should know what's happening outside. Sarah's new algorithm has revolutionized the industry. Sterling Systems is now worth $20 billion. They've hired hundreds of engineers, created thousands of jobs. She's done what you always claimed to want, change the world. Olivia started at Harvard. She's studying bioengineering, combining computer science with medicine. There's talk she might cure cancer before she's 30. She gave a speech last month about ethical innovation. Never mentioned you, but everyone knew. Your mother visits Olivia now. Sarah allowed it. They have tea every Sunday. Olivia calls her grandmother. Your mother seems happy. Jessica remarried. A pediatrician named James. He adopted Grace. She's 3 now. Looks just like Jessica. They seem happy too. Mitchell Technologies doesn't exist anymore. The building was bought by a nonprofit that teaches coding to underprivileged kids. Sarah funded it anonymously, but everyone knows. I'm not writing to hurt you, I'm writing because someone should tell you the truth. Everyone you hurt is thriving. Everyone you abandoned is loved. Everyone you stepped on to climb higher has risen above you. But here's the thing, Ryan, it's not too late for you to become someone different. Not for them. That ship has sailed. But for you, for whoever you might help next. I teach at that nonprofit now in your old building. Sometimes I think about the waste of it all. You were brilliant too in your way. Imagine if you'd worked with Sarah instead of against her. Imagine what you might have built together. But that's the past. The question is, what will you build now? David. Ryan read the letter 3 times, then sat on his narrow bunk, staring at the ceiling. David was right. Everyone had moved on, moved up, moved forward. The world had healed around the wound he'd created, stronger for the scar. That night in the coding class, an inmate named Marcus, different Marcus, ironic coincidence, was struggling with basic functions. I can't do this, Marcus said. I'm too stupid. Ryan looked at him, 19 years old, in for dealing drugs, trying to build something better. You're not stupid, Ryan said. You're learning. There's a difference. Here, let me show you. For the next hour, Ryan taught patiently, carefully, the way he should have mentored young engineers years ago. When Marcus finally got it, his face lit up with understanding. Yo, Mitchell, you're actually a good teacher. Why didn't you do this before? Ryan thought about it. I didn't understand the value of building others up. I only knew how to tear them down. That's deep, man, but you understand now? I'm learning. That became Ryan's focus, teaching, building, creating value for others instead of extracting it. He developed a comprehensive coding curriculum for inmates, started a programming certificate course, helped dozens of prisoners gain skills they could use after release. The warden noticed. Mitchell, you've done more for rehabilitation in 3 years than most programs do in 10. How? Ryan's answer was simple. I finally learned that real success isn't what you take, it's what you give. Word of his program spread. Other prisons requested his curriculum. Tech companies started hiring his graduates. It wasn't redemption. Nothing could redeem what he'd done. But it was something, a small positive in an ocean of negative. One day, a guard brought unexpected news. Mitchell, you have a visitor. Ryan never had visitors. His mother had written but never come. He entered the visiting room to find Marcus Sterling waiting. Not Marcus the inmate, Marcus the billionaire, Olivia's father. Ryan sat carefully, waiting. Marcus studied him for a long moment. You look different. Prison does that? No, it's more than that. Sarah said you might have actually learned something. I didn't believe her, dare to believe her. Sarah knows she thinks about me? She tracks your program, the rehabilitation work. She's the one who suggested those tech companies hire your graduates. Ryan's throat tightened. Even now, after everything, Sarah was helping him help others. Why are you here? Ryan asked. Marcus pulled out a tablet. Olivia wrote something for a class about nature versus nurture. She asked me to give it to you. Ryan took the tablet with trembling hands. The Man Who Wasn't There, a meditation on biological versus chosen family. By Olivia Sterling. I have 2 fathers. One gave me DNA. The other gave me everything else. The biological one is in prison for stealing from my mother. I've seen his picture, recognized my jaw in his face, my eyes in his, but I've never met him and never will. The chosen one taught me to ride a bike, check for monsters under my bed, walk me down the aisle at my high school prom because my date wasn't good enough. He earned the title Dad through presence, not genetics. Some people say I should be angry at my biological father. I'm not. Anger requires energy, and he doesn't deserve mine. Instead, I'm grateful. His absence taught me that family is about choice, not chance. His cruelty showed me kindness by contrast. His failure became my fuel to succeed ethically. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but I'm not an apple from his tree. I'm a seed my mother saved, my real father watered, and I chose how to grow. To the man whose DNA I carry, Thank you for leaving. Your greatest contribution to my life was your absence. It left room for a real father to step in, one who shows up, one who stays, one who loves. I hope you find redemption, not for us, but for yourself. We've already found ours. Ryan handed back the tablet, his vision blurred. She's remarkable, he whispered. Yes, she is, and she's nothing like you. Thank God for that. Marcus stood to leave, then paused. She's right, about redemption. Sarah thinks you might actually achieve it. Not with them, that bridge is ash, but maybe with others. Keep teaching those inmates. Some of them might become the fathers you never were. After Marcus left, Ryan sat in the visiting room until the guards made him leave. That night, he looked at the photos on his wall, not of family he'd lost, but of graduates from his program. Men who'd gotten jobs, started families, built something better. Maybe that was his purpose now, to be the teacher, the mentor, the builder he'd never been before. To create hundreds of success stories that weren't built on someone else's destruction. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. 7 years into his sentence, Ryan received news that changed everything. His mother had died. The prison chaplain delivered the news gently, but Ryan felt it like a physical blow. She'd been his last connection to who he used to be, the only person required by blood to still care. She left you something, the chaplain said, handing him an envelope. Inside was a letter and a photograph. The picture showed his mother with Olivia at what looked like Olivia's Harvard graduation. They were both smiling, arms around each other, the grandmother and granddaughter united despite him. The letter was brief. Ryan, I spent years angry at you for denying me Olivia, but Sarah gave me what you took away. I've had 5 beautiful years as a grandmother. Olivia knows our family history now, the good parts you never valued. She carries forward the Mitchell name with honor you never showed it. I'm leaving my estate to Olivia. The house you grew up in will be hers. Maybe she'll create better memories there than you did. I forgive you, son, not for what you did to Sarah or Olivia, that's not mine to forgive, but for what you did to me. A mother's love doesn't end, even when it should. Find peace, Ryan, not with those you hurt, but within yourself. Mom, Ryan sat in his cell, holding the photo, studying Olivia's face. She looked happy, accomplished, whole. Nothing broken about her despite coming from him. His mother looked proud in a way she'd never looked at him, not even when Mitchell Technologies went public. That afternoon, he was teaching advanced programming when one of his students, Jerome, asked an unexpected question. Mitchell, you ever regret it, what you did? The class went quiet. Everyone knew Ryan's story. It was public record, discussed in true crime podcasts, analyzed in business ethics courses. Every day, Ryan answered, but regret isn't useful unless it changes behavior. Yeah, but if you could go back, Ryan set down his marker. If I could go back, I'd tell 23-year-old me that brilliance isn't scarce. Sarah's success didn't diminish mine. We could have built something together twice as powerful as what either built alone. I'd tell him that children aren't burdens, they're legacies. That love isn't weakness, it's the only strength that matters. So why'd you do it then? Because I was small. Small people think there's not enough success to go around. They steal because they can't create. They destroy because they can't build. They leave because they can't stay. Jerome nodded slowly. My kid's mom wants me to be there more. I've been thinking I need to focus on the hustle, get rich first. Jerome, your kid won't remember the money you didn't make. They'll remember the games you didn't play, the bedtimes you missed, the promises you broke. Trust me, I'm an expert in everything not to do. That evening, Ryan got another unexpected visit. Jessica. She looked different, softer, happier. The hardness she'd developed being married to him had melted away. Hello, Ryan. Jess, you look well. I am. Very well. Happy, actually. They sat across from each other, the weight of history between them. I heard about your mother, I'm sorry. Thank you. She got to be a grandmother, at least, to Olivia. Jessica nodded. Sarah's good that way. Generous with family, even complicated family. How's Grace? Jessica pulled out her phone, showed him a photo. A little girl with Jessica's features and nothing of his, building a sandcastle on a beach, laughing. She's perfect, Jessica said. James is a wonderful father. She calls him daddy with such joy, Ryan. The kind of joy that comes from knowing you're safe and loved. I'm glad. Are you, really? Ryan considered lying, then chose truth. Part of me wishes it was me in that photo, but the better part knows she's better off. James chose her. I would have been there out of obligation. You're different, Jessica observed. Prison or perspective? Both. Teaching these guys, seeing them fight to become better fathers from behind bars, it shows me what I could have been. Should have been. Jessica stood to leave. I'm remarrying next month. Really remarrying, with joy this time. Grace will be our flower girl. I wanted you to hear it from me. Be happy, Jess. You deserve it. She paused at the door. You know what's sad, Ryan? This version of you, the one who teaches and helps and tells the truth, I might have actually loved this version. After she left, Ryan returned to his cell and pulled out a notebook. He'd been writing, not code, but thoughts, observations, letters he'd never send. Tonight he wrote, Dear Olivia, you'll never read this, but I need to write it. Today I saw a photo of you at graduation. You looked like your grandmother when she was young, strong, brilliant, kind. Nothing like me except the shape of your eyes. Your mother gave you the gift of my absence. It let Marcus Sterling be your father without the shadow of biology interfering. You grew up feeling chosen, wanted, fought for. That's worth more than DNA. I teach men here who are trying to be better fathers from prison than I ever was in freedom. They write letters, make calls, fight for 5-minute video visits. They'd give anything for what I threw away. You wrote that my greatest contribution was leaving. You're right, but know this, it wasn't intentional wisdom. It was cowardice that accidentally became kindness. I hope you cure cancer. I hope you build the impossible. I hope you love freely and are loved completely. I hope you never wonder what if about me because the what is of your life is so much better. Your biological father, nothing more, Ryan. He closed the notebook, locked it in his small drawer. These letters would die with him, but writing them felt like confession, like bleeding poison from a wound that would never heal. Tomorrow he would teach more inmates. Some would get out, get jobs, become the fathers he never was. That was his contribution now. Not redemption, but multiplication. Every good father he helped create was a small counterweight to the damage he'd done. It would never balance. Some scales can't be evened, but he would keep adding to the positive side until his sentence ended or his life did, whichever came first. 10 years into his sentence, Ryan stood before the parole board. His hair was gray now, his face lined with the geography of consequence. He'd become the prison's most effective rehabilitation coordinator. His coding program expanded to include entrepreneurship, ethics, and family counseling. Mr. Mitchell, the board chair began, your record shows remarkable transformation. 0 infractions, hundreds of successful program graduates. Letters of support from inmates, guards, even the warden. But the question remains, are you reformed or performing? Ryan had prepared no speech, made no notes. I can't prove internal change. I can only show external actions. I've taught 800 inmates to code. 300 have jobs. 50 have started their own companies. More importantly, 200 have reunited with their children. And you, have you attempted contact with your daughters? Never. Their peace is more important than my need for forgiveness. The board deliberated for an hour. When they returned, their decision was unanimous. Parole granted. Ryan walked out of prison on a Tuesday morning, carrying one bag in 10 years of perspective. No one waited for him. No cameras recorded it. He'd arranged it that way, filing paperwork to ensure his release stayed private. Tom had left him enough money for a bus ticket and a week in a cheap motel. After that, he was on his own. His first stop was a cemetery. His mother's grave was simple, elegant, the way she'd lived. Fresh flowers lay there, expensive ones. A card read, from Olivia and Marcus. Ryan placed his own flowers, wildflowers picked from the prison garden, grown by inmates learning horticulture. They seemed more honest than store-bought roses. I'm sorry, Mom, he said to the stone, for all of it. Wind rustled the trees, carrying the sound of traffic, of life continuing. Ryan stood there until sunset, saying goodbye properly to the one person whose forgiveness had mattered. His second stop was unexpected. Mitchell Technology's old building. As David had written, it was now the Collins Sterling Center for Ethical Technology. Young people streamed in and out, diverse faces bright with possibility. Ryan stood across the street watching. In the lobby, visible through glass walls, hung a portrait of Sarah Collins Sterling. A plaque beneath read, "The original coder whose stolen work built an empire, now teaching others to build their own." "It's a good program," a voice said beside him. Ryan turned to find David Carter, his former engineer, now older, wearing a teacher's ID badge. "David, heard you got out today. Figured you'd come here." They stood in awkward silence. "I teach in your old office," David said. Sarah insisted on keeping one thing. "Your whiteboard. The one where you used to work out problems. She says it reminds students that brilliance without ethics is just clever cruelty." "She's right. You really have changed." Ryan shrugged. "Changed, changing, will keep changing until I die. It's not a destination." David handed him a card. "I know you can't work in tech officially, but we need someone to teach ethics, someone who knows the cost of not having them. Interested?" Ryan looked at the card. "You want me to teach at a center named after the woman I destroyed?" Sarah approved it. She says redemption requires opportunity. This is yours. The next morning, Ryan stood before a classroom of young programmers. The walls held photos of successful alumni, ethical innovators who'd built without stealing, created without destroying. "My name is Ryan Mitchell," and he began. "You might know me as the cautionary tale, the man who stole code and built an empire on lies. I'm here to teach you why that was the stupidest thing I've ever done." A student raised her hand. "Is it true you're Olivia Sterling's biological father?" "Biologically, yes, but Marcus Sterling is her father. He earned that title. I'm just a genetic donor who serves as an example of what not to become." "Do you ever see her?" "No, and that's the point. Some mistakes can't be fixed, only learned from. Your code will outlive you. Make sure it's code you wrote, not code you stole. Your children, if you have them, will remember you. Make sure they remember someone worth knowing." He turned to the whiteboard, his old whiteboard, and began writing. Lesson 1. Integrity in coding isn't about comments or clean functions. It's about creation versus theft, building versus breaking, staying versus leaving. As he taught, Ryan thought about Sarah, probably in a board meeting at Sterling Systems, still innovating. About Olivia, likely in a Harvard lab, working on her cancer research. About Grace in elementary school, calling another man daddy. About Marcus Sterling, who'd stepped up when Ryan had stepped away. They were all living their lives, complete without him, thriving in his absence. And that was as it should be. During lunch break, Ryan sat alone in what used to be his executive dining room, now a student cafeteria. He opened his notebook and wrote one final letter he'd never send. "To everyone I hurt, I'm not asking for forgiveness. Some things are unforgivable, and that's appropriate. I'm not asking for contact. Your peace matters more than my need for resolution. I'm just marking this moment, the day I began teaching at a center named for my victim, surrounded by her success, contributing to her legacy." The irony is perfect. The justice is poetic. Sarah, your code changed the world twice. Once when I stole it, and again when you rewrote it better. You won. Olivia, you became remarkable without me, possibly because of my absence. You won. Grace, you'll never know my name, and that's a gift. You won. Jessica, you found real love after my counterfeit version. You won. Marcus, you became the father I should have been. You won. Mom, you got the granddaughter you deserved, just not through me. Even in death, you won. I lost everything, and in losing finally learned what mattered. Too late to matter, but not too late to teach others. That's my life now. Teaching young programmers not to become me. It's not redemption. It's consequence with purpose. Ian. He closed the notebook as students filed back in for afternoon sessions. A young man approached, nervous. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm Jake. I have a situation. My girlfriend's pregnant, and I got this amazing job offer across the country, and..." Ryan looked at the boy, 23, brilliant, standing at the same crossroads Ryan had faced decades ago. "Sit down, Jake. Let me tell you about the most expensive decision I ever made. It cost me everything that actually mattered and gave me everything that didn't. Still interested in that job? As Jake sat, eager to listen, Ryan began the only work that mattered now, making sure others didn't repeat his mistakes. He would never be a father to Olivia or Grace, never be a husband to Jessica or Sarah, never be the son his mother deserved. But he could be this, a warning, a teacher, a man who learned too late but learned completely. He could help young men choose love over ambition, family over fortune, creation over theft. It wasn't enough, but it was something. And sometimes, something was all you could offer the world after you'd taken everything. The Collins Sterling Center for Ethical Technology hummed with graduation day energy. Not a university graduation, but something smaller, more intimate. The 20th cohort of the center's coding program was receiving their certificates. Ryan stood at the side of the small auditorium watching his students cross the stage. Jerome was there, now a senior developer at a startup, his daughter in the audience recording everything on her phone. Marcus, the former inmate, not the billionaire, had started his own app development company, employing other former convicts. "You should be up there," David Carter said, appearing beside him. "You taught most of them." "Background is where I belong," and Ryan replied. "This is their moment." The keynote speaker took the podium, and Ryan's breath caught. Sarah Collins Sterling, now 48, commanded the room with quiet authority. She'd aged gracefully, success sitting easily on her shoulders. "20 years ago," she began, "someone stole my code and built an empire on it. I could have let that theft define me, could have spent my life bitter and broken. Instead, I chose to keep creating. Today, that stolen code is obsolete, but the code I've written since has changed how we process global data." Her eyes swept the room, paused briefly on Ryan, then continued. "But this isn't about me, it's about you. Each of you has chosen creation over destruction, building over breaking. Some of you have criminal records. Some of you were told you'd never amount to anything. Yet here you are, certified, employed, contributing." She clicked to a slide showing success statistics. 92% job placement, average starting salary, $70,000. But more importantly, 70% of you are actively mentoring others. You're not just taking success, you're creating it for others. That's the difference between theft and creation. Theft is finite. You can only steal what already exists. Creation is infinite. It multiplies, spreads, grows beyond what you imagined. After the ceremony, Ryan was packing up his teaching materials when Sarah approached. They hadn't spoken directly in over 20 years. Ryan, Sarah, and they stood there, two people whose lives had been violently intertwined, then separated, now crossing paths in the strangest of circumstances. "Your students speak highly of you," she said. "Jerome credits you with saving his relationship with his daughter. I just told him what not to do. My expertise." Sarah studied him. "Olivia's getting married next month." Ryan's chest tightened. "Congratulations. I hope she's found someone worthy of her." "She has, a pediatric researcher. They're planning to start a foundation for children with rare diseases." "Of course she is. She's your daughter." "She's asked about you recently. Not about meeting you, but about understanding you. She's writing her dissertation on nature versus nurture, using our story as a case study." Ryan almost smiled. Being reduced to a case study feels appropriate. "Her conclusion might interest you. She argues that biological fathers who abandon their children actually perform a kind of natural selection, removing themselves from the gene pool of active parenting, allowing better-suited individuals to fill that role." Harsh, but accurate. Marcus gave her what you couldn't: presence, patience, unconditional love. She's who she is because you weren't there. "I know." Sarah pulled out an envelope. "She wanted me to give you this. Not a letter. She's still not interested in contact. It's an invitation to watch her wedding. Live streamed. She says you've earned the right to witness from a distance the life you're not part of." Ryan took the envelope with trembling hands. "Why would she?" "Because she's not cruel. She understands you're human, flawed, broken, but human. Watching her happiness might give you closure, or pain, but either way, she thinks you should see what your absence created." Sarah turned to leave, then paused. You know what the real tragedy is, Ryan? You could have had it all. My love, Olivia's existence, the company we could have built together. You had all the ingredients for happiness, and you threw them away for an inferior version of success. I know that too. Good. Hold on to that knowledge. Teach it. Make it mean something. She left, and Ryan stood holding the envelope. Inside was a simple card with a live stream link and a date. No message, no signature, just the facts. A month later, Ryan sat alone in his small apartment, laptop open, watching his biological daughter get married. Olivia was radiant, her smile genuine and deep. Marcus walked her down the aisle with the pride of a father who'd earned every moment. Sarah stood in the front row, tears flowing freely. The ceremony was beautiful, full of joy Ryan had never created, love he'd never fostered. When Olivia and her new husband kissed, the room erupted in celebration. The camera panned across faces Ryan didn't recognize, friends he'd never met, extended family he'd never know, a life built entirely without him. But then Olivia turned to the camera, as if she knew he was watching. She didn't speak to it, didn't acknowledge it directly. But for just a moment, she looked at the lens with something that wasn't hate or anger or even sadness. It was acknowledgement. He existed somewhere beyond her life, and that was exactly where he belonged. The stream ended. Ryan closed his laptop and sat in the gathering dusk. Tomorrow he would teach another class, help another young programmer avoid his mistakes. He would continue building his small contribution to the world, teaching ethics to those who might otherwise follow his path. He pulled out his notebook one last time and wrote, "Today, I watched my daughter get married from a distance measured not in miles but in choices. She was beautiful, happy, whole. Everything I'm not, everything I couldn't give her, everything she became without me. This is success, knowing that my greatest failure became her greatest gift. My absence was the presence she needed. I will never be her father. Marcus Sterling owns that title forever. But I can be this, a cautionary tale that saves other families, a teacher who creates fathers from potential deadbeats, a man who learned too late but teaches others while there's still time. Olivia, if you ever read this in some distant future when I'm gone, thank you for becoming extraordinary without me. Thank you for letting Marcus be your father. Thank you for giving me one glimpse of the life I forfeited. Your DNA donor, nothing more, nothing less, Ryan P.S. Your mother was right. We could have built something beautiful together. Instead, she built something beautiful without me. That's the better ending." Ryan closed the notebook for the final time. Outside, the city hummed with life. Families going home, children playing, lovers meeting, the endless cycle of human connection he'd excluded himself from. Tomorrow he would teach. The day after, he would teach. Every day until his body gave out, he would teach young programmers not to become him. It was his only redemption, his only contribution, his only purpose. In a building that bore Sarah's name, teaching students she inspired, living on the margins of lives he'd damaged, Ryan Mitchell had found his place, a warning sign on the road to success, pointing others toward the path he hadn't taken. It wasn't happiness, it wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't redemption, but it was truth. And after a lifetime of lies, truth was enough.